Hello everyone! In this video, we're gonna talk about the garden, the type of soil, the sun, the climate, the challenges. It's going to be a long one, so get comfy and hop along and let's talk about it. Hi there, I am Gia and I garden in Portugal on the Silver Coast and Zone 10B. I share my life in this small space with nature, my pet cats, and all of you who wish to join in our adventures. So welcome. Here we cats, here we garden, and here we cattle. When I first moved here, everything had been cleared. Of course, pesticides were used, and the gardening areas had been tilled by a tractor and small machines as well. As you can see from the photos, it was very, very bare, but it had trees, which I'm very glad, and it had the orchard. It had some roses as well and some other vining plants, but it still was very bare. And there was not a single raised bed. Everything was grown in ground. People would sow potatoes, peas, and beans and other things. And slowly but surely, I started adding flowers, pots, little things everywhere, and without realizing, I was starting to build the garden. And which brings us to today. The sun starts early in the morning there and does a full 360 around the garden and ends way up there, which is where the sea is. So, at any given time, there's always sun in an area of the garden. So there's always a bit of shadow, always a bit of sun, and there are areas that are in full sun all day, which is where I put my sun-loving crops. So where I live is on a slope, okay? Lots of the houses and different altitudes. So when I arrived here, there were already many different tiers and layers. That's why you can see the house up there, and I'm down here, and I have different tiers. So let me show you what I mean. There are many stone tiers. I think it's 3 rows of stone tiers, and this divides parts of the garden so it holds the soil. I don't know who built this. I don't know if it was the landlord. I don't know if it was the people that were here before me, but these are very old, but they still work. They still hold the soil, and they help separate the garden. So this is the natural clay soil that we have here in the garden. As you can see, it's very stone-like when it's this is what I have. I build raised garden beds. I make it work. And it does work. Just have to be a little patient. But it does work. Buddy! That is why it's important to mulch the soil and try different approach. So here is an in-ground garden bed, which I dug years ago, and I filled it with organic matter. It still gets the nutrients of the clay soil around it, but I keep adding organic matter all the time. And things work and things can grow here. So if you have clay soil, it can be done, okay? Don't get desperate. Same principle applies to the raised garden beds that I make. Underneath it's complete clay soil, okay? And one of the cool things about the clay soil is that it is moldable. You do need either rain or water to mold this. This is why I only build stuff on clay soil in fall or winter, when the soil is workable, which we're in the summer now and it's rock solid. We can't do anything. It would be a lot of work for me to grow all this in the clay soil itself, but by making the tier and adding the containers, it made my life much more easy. And I can still put things in the clay like flowers around it if I want to. And yeah, I did put some flowers on the clay around, and I am adding more flowers everywhere in the clay. So that's why I'm not so sad about having clay soil anymore. I just learned how to work with it, and I learned how I can use it to my advantage as well. The kind of coastal weather that I have here is 80% cloudy with a chance of sunlight throughout the day. And I've gotten used to it. Mostly mornings, especially in the summer, you have sea mist all around, mostly all morning sometimes. And then in the afternoon, it's sunny, nice and warm. Hey, birdie! That's a very happy birdie. And the wind is rising again. So, one of the biggest challenges is definitely the wind. Um, each tier takes windstorms differently. Some tiers get more damage than others, which is good. Okay, and this being microclimate, each tier has its own microclimate. But the wind, I have to keep in mind that the wind will ruin my plants. So when I have taller crops like fava beans or tomatoes, or I can have a windstorm any time of the year, okay? Mostly it's March, April, but sometimes even in the summer, and especially when the autumn starts, we get a lot of windstorms. So I have to keep that in mind. That's a great challenge. And when the wind is that strong, sometimes I cannot be out here in the garden, or I risk something hit me in the head. But yeah, so this is why having raised garden beds helps, and having containers helps, having in-ground beds help, because each tier I can make it work so I have less damage from the wind. Another very big challenge is the amount of rain and each year it gets worse. And our climate, it gets closer to tropical climate each year. Kind of like in Florida. I watch a lot of stuff in the US and Florida and the gardeners too, and the weather conditions are not that different anymore. So yeah, we don't get as warm because it's still a coastal area, but yeah, we're getting more tropical by the year, which means more storms, more weather patterns that are not predictable, or if they are predictable, we don't know the amount of the damage. That was a cat. We don't know the amount of damage it's gonna be. So yeah, it's been getting worse from year to year. The plants and the trees and the wildlife has changed so much. Each year there's something different. Something that is completely unpredictable here is because this is a set of microclimates. It's not just a microclimate. There are a lot of microclimates just in every different part of the garden, including here in the orchard. It's the possibility of hail, and we can have hail at any time of the year, even in June. And I've had that in June. I have that in May, in April, in March, in February. It depends on whatever the clouds decide to do up there. And sometimes it rains only hail here, and in the properties next or down, it doesn't rain hail there at all. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy how this works here. However, the frost is milder than in other areas because since this is surrounded by a mound and lots of vegetation, it's okay for frost. So I am lucky in the sense that I can grow stuff here that other people just down the road can't. If they have an open space and it's too cold, things die. And so I'm not complaining. I'm just stating the challenges. Because still, it's an amazing place. It's amazing nature. And even though it's complicated, I would still not have it any other way. Living on a slope and having different tiers in the garden, it has a lot of leveling challenges. And when it rains and the storm occurs, things get damaged. So I have to rebuild this part here eventually because the clay just fell with the rain. It was too much rain, and I have to come here and level up the blocks again. It's something that occurs every year. Sometimes it lasts, if it doesn't rain, it lasts longer, but it is what it is. I built this on clay. I don't do any permanent structures because of how I garden in a rented property, right? I cannot do permanent stuff. But yeah, I have to keep that in mind. So picking up the pieces, this is another challenge that I have here. So picking up many years later upon the idea of tiers, last year I built this container tier, which is composed of two rows of containers. In a place that was just a mound, I had to make the tier myself, but it was just a mound of clay that wasn't being used, and it was always full of weeds. So I've decided it's still full of weeds, but now it has containers on it. So yeah, that's one of the things I've been doing to make most of the space, because that's a highly sunny area. So it was like, it has been wasted for years, just with some flowers, and weeds mostly. But now it has stuff growing on it since last year, because I was like, no, I'm going to change things. Um, and it's been working out really well, especially in the winter, because the containers keep the plants warmer and I can have a bigger growing season. So that's one of the things I improved. There are many little places around the property where I have built raised beds or garden beds, and that I've added steps, because slope, and I have tried to make this a little bit more comfortable for me, so I can have a place to sit and watch nature. Every single flower that you see here, it was me. I've been adding flowers, and building steps was really the best thing I did last year, so I could access the tiers, because the other years I would just slip and it was dangerous. So also, some were bought and some were found in the trash. My mother found these stones in the trash, and I was like, thank you whoever threw these in the trash. These are great steps. Okay, great steps, thank you so much. And thank you to my mom, which she picked them up and she put them in the car, so that wasn't easy too. So the garden is really never ever dormant. Even in winter there's always life, always things growing, even with storms, even with hail, even with lots of wind, there's always life going on here. So there's never really a stop season for me. So I have to make choices. If there are months that the weather is going to be really bad, then I choose those months to rest from the garden. So that's the truth about my garden. And I have a kitty here. It's messy, it's wild, and it's also full of life and beautiful. Do I wish that in the future I can have better things? Yes, I do. But the garden is a reflection of me. So, right now it is how it is. I want to make it comfortable for me too, for nature, for the cats, and we'll see how this goes. Each year I change things, each year I add things. I think I'm making it better within my possibilities. So yeah, and it makes me happy to be here, and I think that's the most important thing. It helps me a lot with my mental state, and also my physical state, and it brings me happiness. And if gardening makes you happy, then we're in the right place. For more videos about the garden or in the garden gardening, I suggest you check some of these. Um, Thank you for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next fall. Bye!